Tales Under the New Moon is a series of official Final Fantasy XIV short stories. This is the latest story as of this recording, known as the first of many festivals. It was released during Dawntrail and does contain spoiler for the Dawntrail main story. Book Lamat, Vow of Resolve, and Dawnserwant of Tuliolal looked upon the splendor that was the nation's capital. A many-hued tapestry of lives and cultures that unfurled before her. In the evening light, the colors grew even more vibrant, as all manner of people flow through the city street, the lifeblood of our nation. And in the recent days, their community had grown even larger, as refugees from Yasulani gradually made their way back home. Finally free from the mysterious dome, which had severed them from the outside world's temporal flow. For 30 years they had abided in the realm of Alexandria, and grown accustomed to its radically different way of life, only to emerge and find Tural exactly as it had been when they left, and themselves 30 years older than their kin. Though the returners were in many ways strangers to Tural, Vuk Lamat was wholly committed to helping them retake their place in Turali society. She had devised several plans to facilitate this process with the aid of her brother. One involved the staging of hunting festival in the city. The previous Dawnserwant, Gulul Jaja, had been especially fond of such events, and it would provide an excellent opportunity for the people to enjoy themselves and each other's company. How old was I when I first took part? 16? But there was that one time I snuck out as a cub with Papan on the visor. She chuckled to herself as she closed her eyes and cast her mind back to that day's misadventure. Had it been 14 years already? The several dozen participants milling about the winged walk wore expressions that bespoke nervousness and eagerness in equal measure. The tension broke when the Dawnserwant at last appeared upon the balcony, addressing them with a booming voice that all knew at once belonged to the head of Resolve. "I salute you, brave warriors, and thank you for coming. But before the festivities commence, I must remind you that this is not just a celebration of martial prowess. This day we hunt not to take the life of our prey, but to acknowledge our place within nature's design, and give thanks for the bounty of Tural." Their hearts swelled with passion and pride as they listened to the Dawnserwant's words, and each and every one stood a little bit straighter. The head of reason proceeded to outline the rules of the competition, his measured tone ensuring no part was misunderstood. Beasts would be released into the city from the Arse of the Dawn, and participant would be tasked with slaying them within the allotted time. The one who laid low the largest specimen would be crowned the victor, and granted a boon of their own choosing. So great was this honor that one would surely be proclaimed a hero to their people, like the zoral Hunmuruk, a former champion who had returned to his village with a priceless great bow from the palace's own treasure vault. As Gulul Jaja concluded his opening remark, the drummers began to play and the participants raised their voices in approval, surging forward and flowing out into the street. A wave breaking upon the rock, their joy and energy revitalizing the city. The head of Resolve granted his approval. "Many villagers sent their best for this one. Will our son acquit himself well against such formidable competition, I wonder?" The head of reason seemed bemused by his brother's question. "You need not worry about Zoral, Ja. 13 he may be, but a warrior grown he has proven himself already. If he hadn't, you would never have conceded to him taking part." Those unfamiliar with blessed siblings might have been confused to witness their exchange, but despite sharing the same body, each head was a separate and distinct individual. The head of Resolve listened to the words of the one that he trusted more than any other, and nodded in concession. At that moment, a breathless man of the Landsguard came running, his face picture of panic. "Apologies, Dawnserwant, but the third promise, Vuk Lamat, has escaped from her room and is nowhere to be found. The door was locked and the sentries posted just as you instructed. Head of reason, but even if the precautions she somehow The head of Resolve boisterous laughter cut short the man's report. So eager to see the festival that she couldn't abide her confinement, no doubt. With such insatiable curiosity, she is sure to surprise us in the years to come. At this, the head of reason could only sigh, though he knew his brother spoke true. And indeed, Wuglamat would not be denied a front-row view of the festivities. I had been there in the thick of it. She soon made her way to Bayside Bevy, darting from shop to shop to avoid discovery, before pausing briefly in the shadow of a pile of cargo, straining to listen to the sound of nearby activities. Forbidden from taking part, she had nevertheless yearned to experience the excitement firsthand. Overcome with anticipation of the battles she imagined she would shortly witness, her pulse quickened in time with the beat of the distant drums. "This is no place for a kid like you." The disapproving Yasolani drawl was so close he could feel the breath on her neck. Wuglamat leapt out of hiding and whirled to find a figure shrouded in large cloak, with dark wavy hair that shimmered like the sea at dusk. The tall ears and glittering almond eyes were striking to behold. It was the first time she had ever seen a Shitona girl in the flesh. "Hey, you're a kid too. If you're so scared, then you should go hide in Sunperch." She was disappointed to find the older girl wholly unmoved by her words. "That I can't do. I came all the way from Yasolani for the festival. The palace is too far from the action. I want to see it up close, be in the thick of it." Hearing her own sentiment echoed, Wuglamat couldn't help but grin. "Me too. Say, why don't we—" But before she could extend her invitation, they were interrupted by the arrival of one of the beasts set loose for the festival. An avian creature that approached them slowly with uncertain intent. Wuglamat gestured to it with her head. "What is that?" Coolly eyeing the beast, the Shitona girl replied. "A tucalibri, fond of fragrant flowers, normally harmless, but keep your distance. If we antagonize it, it will use the huge beak to defend itself, attacking anything and everything it sees." The young Wuglamat didn't catch everything the older girl was saying, but she understood that this was a formidable foe, and her heart began to beat faster. Just then, the tucalibri let out a shrill and distinct antagonized cry. Spying a small hand axe that was leaning against a nearby creature, Wuglamat seized the weapon and raised it aloft. "Don't worry, I'll protect you." Heroic proclamation thus issued, she charged the beast. Hers was not a martial technique honed with years of physical and mental training, but the sum total of a child's unbridled ferocity. Thus did Wuglamat bring the axe crashing down, channeling her tremendous might into a single decisive blow. Sparks flew from the blade as it glanced against the cobbles, a hair's breadth shy of the beast's head. While utterly ineffective as an attack, the sound and fury was enough to startle the tucalibri, which promptly took wings and fled. "Victory!" she thought, before falling to her knees, spent. Her heart was pounding, louder than the dawn herald, her whole body shaking from the thrill of her first battle. And then the fear she had somehow beaten back returned with full force. "That could have ended very, very badly." She looked up to see the Shitona girl beside her, holding out her hand. "Not bad for a kid your size. Still, we shouldn't stick around. Let's head to the palace before something worse shows up." Once he had helped Wuglamat to her feet, the two began walking in silence. The shadows receded as the sun climbed higher in the sky, and they remained vigilant for the faintest sign of movement as they trudged up the steep path. A short while later, the stairs leading to Sunperch came into view, and they both breathed a sigh of relief. A brief reprieve that was shattered by the sound of thunderous footfall. The Shitona girl looked back, her eyes whiting in apparent disbelief. "A mane like a Far Eastern horse, tusk like spears. That's a signal. What were they thinking?" Even if Wuglamat hadn't heard the fear in the older girl's voice, it was plain that this beast was far greater threat than the bird had been. She brandished her axe reflexively, gripping the handle tight with both hands. "Don't be stupid," the companion hissed. "This isn't a tucalibri. Even a party of hunters would struggle to kill it. Our only chance is to run. But Lamat was not to be deterred. Placing herself between the Shitona girl and the gargantuan monstrosity, she barked her reply. I know, I'll keep it busy. Buy you some time. They had only just met, yet she would risk her life to save the older girl. Though others might question the logic of her choice, to Lamat there was no choice at all. Why wouldn't I? By the same token, the Shitona girl did not waver in her own decision, even as her trembling leg betrayed her crippling fear. No, my mother taught me that naturalists heed their instinct, and she would never forgive me if I left you, even if you are too heroic for your own good. Alas, the Sagnal could not comprehend such noble sentiment, nor care to try. Scraping its hooves and crouching slightly, it readied itself to charge. When a stone came whistling through the air and struck it square between the eyes. Run, Lamati, run! The Sagnal cast about the course of the offending object. Its gaze fell upon the Natsaro youth atop the stairs and the leather slingshot in his hand. Koana! Lamat seized the Shitona girl's hand and sprinted to join the brother. Koana loosed the second and third stone, peppering the beast with well-placed but meaningless blows. Striking off his distraction, the Sagnal bellowed in rage and barreled towards the two girls. It's gonna catch us! The Shitona girl's panic cry was enough to rekindle Lamat's courage. Once more, she resolved to ensure that at least one of them survived. Slowing her step shy of the stair, the child pivoted and broke away, and the Sagnal followed. She heard the older girl's angry, pleading voice, but ran on, sparing her not so much as a glance. I had to give her as much time as I could. As it turned out, however, Lamat's valiant attempt would amount to little, for she tripped before she had taken half a dozen steps, and landed in a heap on the ground. Knowing the Sagnal was nearly upon her, Lamat shut her eyes and braced for the end. Yet as the long moment passed, she realized she was still breathing. Opening her eyes, a crack, she spied a hulking, motionless mass through the legs of a towering Mamulja, who stood with his blue scale back to her, bloodied sword in hand. Only one man had ever inherited both the stout frame of the Hobbigo and the blue scale of the Boneva, the first promise of Tuliolal, Suralja, the true-born son of Gululja, a bond Koana and I could only dream of. On this day he had earned yet another accolade as the youngest ever to participate in the hunting festival, and in felling the Sagnal with a single thrust had demonstrated his worthiness of the honor, saving his step-siblings and their friend in so doing. So this is where you ran off, Koana. Take your sister home now. And thus did Lamat's adventure come to an end, as did the hunting festival not long after. Suralja was undisputed victor, and for his prize he claimed a second sword, that he might follow in his father's footstep and master the Viper's art. To not only participate in the hunting festival at the age of 13, but also win it, was a scarce credible feat, and to rally far and wide declared him their resilient son, a testament to his miraculous conception and birth, who would surely succeed his father as dawnserwant when the time came. But Suralja did not become a hero only to the common man that day. Lamat and Koana cheered for the brother as loudly as any, and never forgot how he had come to the rescue. Did you even hear a word I said? The spell broken, Lamat opened her eyes and saw Erenville giving her a quizzical look. She had seen more time than she could count. Remind me, who asked that I come to select the beast for your hunting festival? That old familiar grumbling. Sorry, I was just thinking back to one where we met. The one Suralja won. Oh. He looked away, eyes narrowing, as he reflected on the memory. On a promise broken, or perhaps kept, to his mother and their shared misadventure. You were so beautiful, I mistook you for a girl. Well, technically speaking, you weren't wrong. It was not widely known that male and female Shitona were indistinguishable from one another until the age of 13. As they were long-lived and few in number, outsiders rarely chanced to encounter a Shitona adolescence. Still, you really surprised me, and not for the last time either. Truly, I couldn't have asked for a better childhood friend. She felt a smirk creep across her lips before she spoke the dreaded words, and sure enough, Erenville rolled his eyes in response, but failed to conceal a faint smile of his own. That old familiar exchange. Long-standing acquaintance, thank you very much. Now then, I believe we have a festival to arrange. Time for old memories had passed, as thoughts had turned to the making of new ones. Together the pair made their way along the cobbled street through which they had once run side by side. This was the short story, the first of many festival, the latest official Final Fantasy short story, as of recording at least. If you enjoyed this reading, make sure to give me a commendation by liking and subscribing. And if you want to hear some of the other short stories, I have a playlist right here on the channel. But in the end, all I want to say is takk fyrir að horfa og eigðu yndislegan dag.